Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and we have a lot to cover. As a reminder, tell all your friends and neighbors in Irwin. Today kicks off, Irwin Week here on Frankly Speaking. We have the three candidates running in the Republican primary for Steuben County Legislature in the Irwin District. Today we start with Drenald Bakari. Tomorrow it'll be Kristen Clements Westervelt. And then on Friday, it's James Cool. And then also on Friday, unrelated, Irwin's in his district, but we'll be talking about the New York State budget with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. We have a lot of viewer comments to get to. We're going to talk about Saudi Arabia. We have other New York State issues that we'll want to get to. A lot of information coming out about that new book regarding the kind of cover-up, if you will, of Joe Biden's mental decline. I think a lot of people are skeptical, myself included, because it looks like a way for many in the media and many surrounding Joe Biden to cover themselves, to protect themselves, to kind of rewrite history. Specifically, one of those people, the author of the book, Jake Tapper. But we will tell you some of the quote-unquote insights from the book if we have an opportunity. But let's kick off with viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. Mark says, it's what's worth talking about Wednesdays with Mark. Okay, thank you, Mark. What's worth talking about? Let's see what Mark says. Grocery prices see the biggest drop in 5 years. And a manager at a Charlotte Popeyes is shot over burnt biscuits. That is one story I did not see. I do have a story, though, I think I would add to this list, Mark. And I'm gonna bring it up early on in the program. And locally, the butcher's son wins the Beef Council's best, I think it's upstate burger, or is it best New York burger award. Of course, Butcher's Sons right here on Market Street. They were also vying with another amazing restaurant, our friends at R&M. So 2 Market Street burger being listed on this award. What's interesting about the award is how the process goes. So it gets voted on and then by the people. And then there's like a secret judge that comes in. You don't know who it's going to be. And it's just kind of an interesting process. So, let's see. It's the New York Beef Council. And it's best New York burger. That's what it is. Okay, in the 2025 competition. So they come in, they order a burger that they think sounds good to them. You don't know if it's a judge or not. So probably that week is the best week to go to any burger joint on the top 10 list. But Butcher's Son was awarded that Beef Council's best New York burger. So there you go. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Okay, comment from a different viewer. Okay, everyone. Whether you like me or not, I don't think only about myself. I think about everyone, even those that I might not agree with. But I do respect their opinion. People might want to be grateful that Trump did remove us from the World Health Organization. They just got the United Nations to pass a pact that all 193 countries are forced to follow. It is anyone that disagrees with that they, meaning the WHO, says is never, ever to be questioned. The UN has made it where anyone will have to have a global ID. If anyone is found in question what the WHO says, you will possibly have your bank account frozen and face being incarcerated for any contradictory statements. The WHO did nothing but lie. That is a fact. They covered for China, the global community that is just the elites trying to make sure they stay in control and keep the power, has sidestepped anything having to do with the United States Constitution and our Bill of Rights. This is definitely the reason for the United States to remove itself from the UN. The UN that also has Iran and Saudi Arabia on the Human Rights Council. Seriously. And finally, this news should make all Americans join together. Thank you. Comment from a different viewer. This came in during yesterday's program, and I apologize. The email I don't always check as frequently as the text messages, and I apologize. That's something I got to get better at. Given their track record of late, something non-Boeing might not be a bad idea. And this is in reference to that gift from Qatar of that plane. The bad idea part, though, is accepting anything like that from Qatar and their ties to terrorism. Thank you for that. We'll be talking about that in just a little bit on the program. Comment from a different viewer. Just a tidbit to make you ponder. Pennsylvania's population, approximately 14 million, has a budget approximately 50 billion. Florida, with a population approximately 22 million, has a budget approximately 115 billion. New York, with a population approximately 20 million, has a budget approximately 250 billion. Huh? Yes, we sure do like to spend it. We have examples of it a little bit later on in the program, so thank you for putting together the numbers. Okay, I want to get your thoughts on this. I know we have, and this isn't arguably the biggest breaking story, but it's one that I think is very frustrating. And why not start out your Wednesday morning frustrated, right? For all those baseball fans in the audience, and I know there's quite a few, I would like your thoughts. Now that Pete Rose has passed away just a few months ago, Major League Baseball has lifted Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe Jackson's bans in what they're calling a shocking reversal that opens them up to a path to the Hall of Fame. I think many people in this audience have a strong opinion on this, and let me know. But to now, after he has passed, give him an opportunity to get in the Hall of Fame, I think, well, just on, let's say, a PR standpoint, I think makes the Hall of Fame look even pettier on this matter. I think many people called for years for Pete Rose to get in the Hall of Fame. I don't know if his family will accept it if he does get in the Hall. Rose, who was placed on the league's permanently ineligible list all the way back in August of 1989 for gambling on baseball. Think of how much baseball and professional sports is now made off of legalized gambling with those apps. But anyway, was reinstated by Commissioner Rob Manfred yesterday and was joined by Shoeless Joe Jackson and other deceased former players who were on the permanently ineligible list. Manfred wrote in a letter, obviously a person no longer with us cannot represent a threat to the integrity of the game. Moreover, it is hard to conceive of a penalty that has been more deterrent effect than one that lasts a lifetime with no reprieve. Well, again, here's kind of one of the issues I have with it. It's about when you get in the Hall of Fame, it's about what you did in the sport. It's not about I guess, a perfect life you lived after. And there's no denying with the statistics that Pete Rose has, Charlie Hustle, there's no denying that he should have been in the Hall of Fame. But I believe if you look at the history of the Hall of Fame, there's a lot of problematic, to use that word, decisions made. I think Curt Schilling should be in there, but because of politics, most likely won't be, because he has the audacity to be conservative. Anyway, I'll continue with what Manfred had to say. Therefore, I've concluded that permanently ineligible ends upon the passing of the disciplined individual, and Mr. Rose will be removed from the permanently ineligible list. The decision by Manfred upended a long-standing ruling on Rose in place since the Reds great agreed to the permanent ban from baseball following a probe concluding that he bet on baseball as a player and manager from 85 to 87. Now, Rose, who passed away in September of last year, just 8 months before yesterday's news, giving rise to momentum for his reinstatement. Among Rose's supporters, President Donald Trump, who previously said he would pardon Rose, Trump met with Manfred in April. I'm not going to go through all the stats. I mean, they're presenting it as, well, once someone passes, well, why now do you kind of bunch them together with Shoeless Joe Jackson? And this doesn't necessarily mean he's going to get in. But posthumously putting him in the Hall of Fame, boy, I think many people would say they'd love to see a strong speech from his family if they decide to give a speech. I think it's just, honestly, at the end of the day, disrespectful. I think it's par for the course, though, to use a different type of sports metaphor. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. And a viewer, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name. But a viewer has a very good point. Pete Rose, by his numbers alone, deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But that one player, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to pronounce it. Ashitani? Whether it was him or his agent gambled on games, yeah, he is still playing. Makes sense of that. Yeah, awarded that gigantic contract, and they essentially looked the other way. Again, just showing the hypocrisy in the Hall of Fame decision. Another comment, Pete Rose should have been banned from baseball. Should have been banned from baseball by some vindictive expletive. Did that mean should or shouldn't? Yeah, just your thoughts. I know it's a weird way to kick off the program this morning. I ended up having enough. Yeah, should not. That's what I thought. Okay, thank you. I'm going to reread that. Pete Rose should not have been banned from baseball by some vindictive expletive. Thank you. I thought that's what you meant. That's the problem. I know it's kind of a weird kickoff to the program, but I had so many conversations about it yesterday with people, and so many people seemed outraged. I said, why not? Now, to lighten up the mood, go to another story that though I may have lost the battle, I'm very willing to win the war. Having recently purchased a vehicle, I, too, have had to deal with what many of you find frustrating every single day, which is that automatic start and stop on your cars. So you go to a red light, and it essentially shuts off your car, and then it kicks back up again. I think that's why it feels to me traffic is so much slower leaving a red light, going through a green light, I should say. Very frustrating. Well, Lee Zeldin, former gubernatorial candidate, and now EPA chief, says start-stop technology where your car dies at every red light so companies get a climate participation trophy. It's a feature that everyone hates, he said. EPA approved it and everyone hates it, so we're fixing it. Now, the feature kills internal combustion engines at red lights and has been touted by proponents for being able to conserve fuel and cut down on pollution. Critics have questioned whether the feature can wear down the car's battery or engine more quickly. Of course, the starter, things like that. The, quote, off-cycle CO2 reducing tech has its origins in a federal rule proposed under former President Barack Obama back in 2012, but didn't take effect until new fuel economy standards to reduce greenhouse gas emissions 5 years later. We don't need the whole history of it, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. So two very different questions, but I love the fact being proactive and saying, Lee Zeldin saying, everyone hates that feature on their car, so we're going to fix it. And I also like that he calls it a climate participation trophy, because that's what it feels like. So I thought that was very good news. Frustrating news from the Baseball Hall of Fame. Very good news coming from the EPA. Also breaking last night. I would add this onto your list, Mark. A judge upheld Trump's authority to deport criminal migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. This coming in late last night. A federal judge on Tuesday, well, it came in late yesterday, but I didn't see the first piece until very early this morning. A federal judge said the Trump administration can evoke the Alien Enemies Act to deport criminal illegal immigrant members of the Venezuela Tren de Aragua gang. But that has not given adequate prior notice to those subject to removal before those deportations can take place, which would allow possible due process and habeas legal challenges. The 43-page ruling by U.S. District Judge Stephanie Haynes, a Trump appointee, conflicts with other rulings challenging the administration's deportation efforts. Quote, having done its job, the court now leaves it to the political branches of the government and ultimately to the people who elect those individuals to decide whether the laws and those executing them continue to reflect their will. We don't, again, need to go through the whole history of this, but just an important decision coming out that the judge upholds Trump's authority to deport criminal migrants under the Alien Enemies Act. So look at all that breaking stories we have right from the beginning. We're going to talk about, I'm running late. Saudi Arabia coming up next. And the first thing we're going to kick off is a kind of an update on the media on this. Let me give you one update just quickly. I can't really do a segue very well from this story. But after 4 years longer of Biden inflation, now NBC, to prove again their bias, has now launched a grocery price tracker. Not during the Biden administration, just like they didn't cover his mental decline, and now everybody's trying to cover their you-know-what with these new books. But now they decided to cover the price of groceries. Are President Donald Trump's policies bringing down grocery bills? Asks NBC News. Trump campaigned heavily on the price of food in 2024, promising that if elected, he would lower costs. But the price of eggs, a frequent stand-in for inflation during the campaign, is still more than $1 more than it was a year ago. And Trump admitted in December that it will be hard to bring prices down. This article will be updated monthly, they said. Now, does anybody believe that with a little over 100 days that Trump was going to completely bring down the cost of everything that quickly? But now, after not reporting on inflation, as a matter of fact, not only not reporting on inflation, they criticized you if you said you couldn't afford the price of groceries, if you couldn't put food on the table. They would say, no, you're wrong, and here's the reasons why you're wrong because of some bureaucratic report. So they would sometimes mock you, get angry at you if you talked about your struggles, because they had to cover up, just like the mental decline, they had to cover up the disastrous economy under Biden. And now they expect Trump to fix it with a little over 100 days. And also just to kind of take the digs at Trump, to attack Trump, putting a grocery price tracker on their website. They always prove their true colors. They always prove that they are going to be biased. As I think Ken said one time, when we use the term soul searching, we knew they were never going to go do soul searching. We knew that they're going to continue this bias. They're just looking for more clever ways to do it. So that'll tie in somehow, trust me on this, with our reporting on Saudi Arabia and Donald Trump's trip to Saudi Arabia. So stay with us. Just getting started. Keep those comments in. Your thoughts on Pete Rose, your thoughts on the start-stop mechanism in newer vehicles, all that, much more. Love to hear from you. We'll be right back.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
From laminate and vinyl to tile and wood, Floor & Decor has more options for pros, homeowners, and anyone looking for the right look at the right price. Your next beautiful space is at Floor & Decor.
Seneca offers you breathtaking views, gorgeous waterfalls, award-winning wine, and so much more. Your experience awaits you. Come experience Seneca Lake.
Football Show breaks down all things NFL. GMFB Overtime.
Check out top highlights, player interviews, special guests, and everything in between. 5 days a week.
GMFB Overtime. It's football for everyone.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the Southern Tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. News on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. Just a comment regarding NBC News. I don't think anything it reports or the mainstream legacy media is true, period. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. I always thought that Pete, meaning Pete Rose, was wronged by baseball. But to take this action now is even more classless and wrong. Perfect word. I love that, classless. I couldn't agree more. I think it puts, yet again, it just secures this reputation that they have. And like I said, Kurt Schilling with the clear political bias there. Why he's not in is shocking. This has been, I think, a long stain on the Hall. And now to wait 8 months after he passed to start the process where he could get in the Hall of Fame. Not that he was aware, because the rule now is, well, if someone passes, I mean, shoeless Joe Jackson's been gone for how long? But now that someone passes, they can get in. He didn't know that was going to be a new rule change, so he never even could perhaps rest assured that someday he would be in the Hall of Fame. Now, this does not guarantee he's going to get in the Hall of Fame. But, yeah, I think that's a perfect way of putting it. Classless, petty, and just makes the Hall of Fame, in my opinion, look even worse. And if you are just joining us, you're probably confused, but Pete Rose, the Hall of Fame made the decision that he could be put into the Hall of Fame now that he's passed away posthumously. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Morning. The term award in quotes, doesn't seem to have the meaning that it used to have. Who is giving the award tells the whole story. God bless Charlie Hustle. He gets my award for humility, for what it's worth. I agree. The way he handled it, the fun in some ways he had with the band. You know, you see him on old interviews with Johnny Carson, or you see some of the commercials and some of the promotions he's done. I would agree with you. And I just think, to me, it's the Hall of Fame. I don't know if they think they're doing themselves a great service, but in my opinion, it's quite the opposite. And I again, using that term, classless. Okay, the reason I brought up NBC, it was to paint a picture overall of the media. Trump did bar the Associated Press, Reuters, and Bloomberg from Air Force One during this Mideast trip. An unprecedented move that was slammed by the White House Correspondents Association. Now, I find this confusing, as if there is some right for these companies, these media companies, to go anywhere the president goes. I just find it odd. But the exclusion of the Associated Press, Reuters, and Bloomberg marks the first time in modern history that no wire service reporters traveled with the president on an overseas visit. The White House Correspondents Association called the move a disservice to every American who deserves to know what their highest elected leader is up to as quickly as possible. Do you find that disingenuous when we had 4 years of not being told, quote, what our highest elected leader is up to in the Biden administration? Isn't there now a whole book trying to protect the media on that? The White House pool was created to be representative of the different types of media outlets that serve different readers, the WHCA said. Leaving out the wires is a disservice to Americans who need news about their president, especially on foreign trips where anything could happen and the consequences could impact the entire world. Now, there were members from other news outlets aboard Air Force One, including Fox News host Sean Hannity, who filmed a social media video touting a huge news day while listing Trump's stops in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. The ban of wire service reporters followed a standoff between the Trump administration and the AP after the AP, as we know, refused to call it the Gulf of America and would only call it the Gulf of Mexico. Now, also, Trump is reportedly considering renaming the Persian Gulf as the Arabian Gulf, a provocative move that would further escalate tensions with Tehran. And then we had the federal judge that ordered the AP's access restored, but instead of complying, the White House eliminated the wire pool seat entirely. The White House Correspondents Association has urged the White House to reverse course. It is disturbed by this new restriction on who can cover the White House and continued retaliation for independent editorial decisions. So there you are. I'm not going to read each of their statements, Reuters, Bloomberg, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. The Saudis did roll out the red carpet in a very special way for Donald J. Trump. They rolled out a mobile and operational McDonald's truck for the president. A White House official confirmed that a mobile McDonald's food truck was in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Images and videos of the truck spread like wildfire on social media. Saudi Arabia brought in a mobile McDonald's for President Trump on his visit, said Benny Johnson. How is this real life? Said others. It's incredible. Now, Trump's love of McDonald's is well documented. And we know that not only did he serve it to athletes very often that came to the White House in his first term, I think what was one of many very smart decisions he made during the campaign, which was when he worked at a McDonald's for that afternoon, handing out fries and meals, and the media attacking him like he doesn't really work there. He didn't really even get some of the orders right. It was pathetic, but he did it in a way to show, because there was questions of whether or not Kamala Harris had actually worked at the fast food company when she was a kid, even though she had kind of touted that on her resume. So, anyway, rolling out the red carpet with a McDonald's food truck. But Trump did ink a $142 billion arms deal with Saudi Arabia, which is part of a $600 billion investment package. So we can talk more about this when we come back. I realize I'm running late. We got some comments coming in. Your thoughts on Pete Rose, your thoughts on the stop-start mechanism in cars, your thoughts on Saudi Arabia and the Qatar plane, and anything else you'd like to weigh in on. We're running late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
When I was in law school, my father had to stop working when he developed early Alzheimer's. Social Security disability benefits saved my parents financially. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. Now I'm a lawyer who helps people when they need Social Security disability. If you can't work, I'd like to help.
For a free consultation, call Lockman & Gorton toll-free 1-800-698-0567.
Employee Pricing Plus. Due to great success, Chilson Wilcox Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram is doing it all again.
Employee Pricing Plus. You pay what we pay on all 2025 models. Offer ends May 31st.
Chilson Wilcox, selling cars a different way, the right way.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star. Every great performance starts with a great night's sleep. It feeds your day. Makes good choices great ones. Because to get the best you, the best thing to get is this. Every great night's sleep starts with Natrol. New Natrol Sleep and Restore for your ultimate restorative sleep.
It's the 25th Waterfront Festival and Cardboard Boat Regatta. A day full of fun for all ages. Register at watkinsglen.com/waterfront festival. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14th.
When I'm in Elmira and Corning, I watch Big Fox.
The Frankly Speaking, the Frankly Speaking roof cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. So many great comments coming in. Comment from this viewer: Pete Rose played for the baseball team in Geneva before joining the major leagues. I did not know that. Thank you for that tidbit. Comment from a different viewer: regarding the banning of the biased news organizations and their claims that we the people, should have access to their lies as soon as possible. President Trump's administration is hands down the most transparent administration that I know of. It's amazing how transparent he is. So when the media tries to criticize him in this way, I think most people laugh because they saw the 4 years of how they covered Biden. So they may think they can lie to us. They may think they can deceive us. But people, even when you have left-wing actors like Rainn Wilson, I drew a blank there, saying, hey, we saw the last 4 years, saying it to Stephanie Ruhle, we saw the last 4 years where you didn't cover anything, and now everything's like a magnifying glass on Trump. Come on. So I agree. This administration is so transparent. And to now, because a couple of biased outlets are not allowed to cover his every move, to criticize him in some way because of that is laughable. Comment from a different comment. We don't need the biased media to fill our heads with nonsense. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer or from Mark. The McDonald's food truck for Trump is cool. We need one around here. Yes, we do. I thought that was a great idea and a fun idea. One that would get such a great reaction from the media if it were a Democrat president. They'd be having so much fun with it. Instead, of course, almost looked at and frowned upon. Trump saying yesterday, exactly 8 years ago this month, I stood in this very room, and this is in reference to his trip in Saudi Arabia, and looked forward to a future in which the nations of this region would drive out the forces of terrorism and extremism and take your place among the proudest, most prosperous, most successful nations of the world. As leaders of a modern and rising Middle East, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, known widely as MBS, I did not know that, had promised Trump that the kingdom would facilitate deals worth $600 billion if the president would make Saudi Arabia his first foreign stop in his second administration. And the two were openly chummy before signing the memorandums at the royal court, with Trump joking at one point that they should make that investment worth an even $1 trillion. Are we doing a good job so far for America? They're only putting in $1 trillion. He told reporters. The $142 billion defense agreement calls for the U.S. to give the Saudis state-of-the-art warfighting equipment and services from over a dozen U.S. defense firms. The deal will focus on Air Force advancement and space capabilities. Okay. Trump also announced an end to Syria sanctions. This coming yesterday, very busy day yesterday. President Trump said Tuesday he will lift crippling U.S. sanctions against Syria before meeting with the country's interim president, Ahmed al-Shar, despite the former al-Qaeda leader having a $10 million American bounty on his head until recently. I will be ordering the cessation of sanctions against Syria in order to give them a chance at greatness, he said at that meeting. Trump called on Saudi Arabia to join the Abraham Accords and recognize Israel. He said, by doing so, you'll be greatly honoring me. When the historic Abraham Accords that we're so proud of, all the momentum was aimed at peace, aimed very successfully. It's been an amazing thing, the Abraham Accords, and is my fervent hope, wish, and even my dream that Saudi Arabia, a place I have such respect for, especially over the last fairly short period of time, what you've been able to do, but will soon be joining the Abraham Accords. I think it'll be a tremendous tribute to your country. It'll be something that's really going to be very important for the future of the Middle East. I took a risk in doing them, and they've been an absolute bonanza for the countries that have joined. Trump also used his speech to threaten Iran with massive maximum pressure and drive Iranian oil exports to zero if Tehran doesn't agree to a nuclear deal. The time is right now for them to choose. The time is right now for them to choose is right now. We don't have a lot of time. And I know the that Iran basically offered the same deal that they offered Obama at the beginning, so not a good deal thus far. But the New York Post editorial board said President Trump went big in Saudi Arabia, rattling off several promising developments and lofty plans for peace, a peaceful, prosperous Middle East. Wish him luck fulfilling this dream. One huge win is solidifying ties with Saudi Arabia itself, a vital ally in the region, after President Biden nearly severed it. De facto Saudi ruler, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, heartily welcomed Trump, and the two then inked that deal that I mentioned, $600 billion. The Prez then laid out a roadmap to a bright future for the Middle East, one of peace and prosperity and commerce, not chaos. After so many decades of conflict, finally it is within our grasp to reach the future that generations before us could only dream about, said Trump. And Trump proved it at least theoretically possible in his first term with the Abraham Accords, unexpected peace agreements between Israel and several Arab nations. He then called on the Saudis to join the accords, even as he admitted, you'll do it in your own time. A Saudi Arabia-Jerusalem peace deal could go a long way toward ending the long Israeli-Palestinian conflict as well. If the Arab world is moving on, the dream of destroying Israel is hopeless. Trump rightly pinned the blame for much of the region's turmoil on Iran, but said he's willing to end past conflicts and forge new partnerships, and it for a better and more stable world. If Tehran rejects that olive branch, Washington will have no choice but to inflict massive maximum pressure on Tehran and drive Iranian oil exports to zero. Either way, Trump vowed Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. Now, hear. Even if making good on that vow requires military action, as all concerned know it may. The president also means to normalize relations with Syria's new regime. He's dropping sanctions on the country to give them a chance at greatness, and will meet Wednesday with Syrian interim president Ahmad al-Shazar. It all adds up to a glorious and grandiose vision, a golden age of the Middle East, as Trump called it. Such optimism is something the region desperately needs to not only hear, but to embrace. Of course, vision and reality are two different things, especially in the Middle East. Here's hoping the president and the region's key players can turn Trump's vision into a new reality. Okay, we got some more on this. We're going to talk about the plane. This isn't going to be the whole program this month because we have a lot of New York State issues as well. Coming up in the next hour, we will be talking with Janal Bakari. He's running for Steuben County Legislature in the district that encompasses Irwin. So stay with us. We'll be right back. Keep those comments coming in. Your thoughts on Pete Rose. If you missed what I'm talking about, you're going to have to do the research yourself. I'm not going to keep telling you the story. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Hardware makes it hard to keep your home looking like the work of art you've always envisioned it would be. Culligan softeners reduce hard water buildup and your cleaning time, transforming every drop, every splash, every rinse into the fine art of a long-lasting clean. With a Culligan water softener, revel in the breathtaking beauty of your home, just the way you've always pictured it. Culligan, water you love.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Hey, this is John with John's Tree Service. We are locally owned and insured and rated A+ with the Better Business Bureau. John's Tree Service, your source for all your tree needs, where customer satisfaction is our guarantee. Give us a call today at 607-377-6513.
Big Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. We always thank our friends at Boss Security and Horseheads for bringing that amazing view to the program. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back. Broadcasting live from the Hasselson studio on Marcus Street Corning. A comment from a viewer. Trump could make the Qatar jet controversy go away if he could just get his hands on a Hunter Biden painting as a trade. Yes, I would agree. Then the media would stop reporting on it. Trump says the $400 million jet from Qatar is more impressive than the outdated Air Force One. Why wouldn't I accept the gift. He asked Sean Hannity. The plane that you are on right now is almost 40 years old. And when you land and see Saudi Arabia, and you see the United Arab Emirates, and you can see Qatar, and you see all these things, and they have these brand new Boeing 747s mostly, and you see ours next to it, this is like a totally different plane. It's much smaller. It's much less impressive as it is. And, you know, we're the United States of America. I believe that we should have the most impressive plane. He clarified the ownership of the aircraft because he's been receiving some criticism that at the end of his term he would receive that plane as kind of a gift used in his presidential library. The Boeing 747 is being given to the United States Air Force Department of Defense, not to me, Trump wrote on Truth. It is a gift from a nation, Qatar, that we have successfully defended for many years. It will be used by our government as a temporary Air Force One until such time as our new Boeings, which are very late on delivery, arrive. Again, the media is trying to call it grift, trying to call it a bribe. But as the president said, we should have the most impressive plane. Michael Goodwin, who is supportive of Trump, but he says Trump recklessly accepting a plane from Qatar is a type of unnecessary risk that could ruin his presidency. Over the years, numerous studies, speeches, and books have focused on a phenomenon known as self-sabotage. The subjects are highly successful people who throw it all away by behaving recklessly when they get to the top of the heap. Think Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky. Overconfidence, boredom, and an insatiable quest for power are among the reasons commonly identified as explanations for the destructive cycle. Comes now Donald Trump, who is behaving in ways that risks his name being added to the list. In his case, the mystery would be why Trump appears willing to ruin a perfectly good presidency by engaging in financial dealings that are suspect and unnecessary. His success, his legacy, the MAGA movement, and the American place in the world are all hanging in the balance. Do you... And he talks about, he does go on to talk about the comeback victory and all the great that Trump has done thus far. But why this? Why the plane is kind of the question that Michael Goodwin asked. Do you put that much into it? Win, lose, or draw, whether he takes it, doesn't take it, whether it gets a lot of pushback or not, do you think that it has this kind of this level of importance that Michael Goodwin has put on it? The outcome is still within Trump's control, and it would be tragic if he gives the Democrats an opening to derail his presidency. Now, the Washington Post, is this the Washington Post or is it the New York Times? They said with the Qatar plane talks, Trump sends a message to the world he's open for business. President said he would be stupid not to accept $400 million luxury airplane from the foreign government despite ethical concerns. So now they're suggesting it is essentially a bribe is what they're insinuating here. Donald Trump on Monday teed up his approach to the presidency with a golf metaphor. When they give you a putt, you say thank you very much. You pick up your ball and you walk to the next hole. On the golf course, such a move, also known as a gimme, is intended to speed up the game. But in this instance, Trump was using the concept to explain a different kind of expediency. Why he would be, quote, stupid not to accept a $400 million luxury airplane that the Qatar government has discussed providing the U.S. government to use as Air Force One. So does it signal to you that Trump is open for business and they're not saying that in a positive way? They're saying it in again, the term that they keep using, grift. Edward Luce writes that Donald Trump's gargantuan self-dealing. Federal ethics rules now seem little more than decoration because of this plane. Such deals are also hard to reconcile with Trump's promise of America first. Should Qatar come good on its free jumbo jet, Trump's so-called palace in the sky would be at the expense of Boeing, which is under contract to resupply the aging Air Force One fleet. How will Trump's rash of impending Gulf towers and resorts serve America's economic or diplomatic interests? That is open to debate. Yet the financial boost to Trump and his family is plain for all to see. The suspicion arises that the U.S. president's real agenda is Trump first. The rest is a sleight of hand. This is something that they tried to paint Trump and his family with the first term. Again, it's hard to not look at this as anything but disingenuous when we know that any reporting on, let's say, for instance, a Hunter Biden was never, well, there was no reporting. So now all of a sudden there is, again, a magnifying glass and innuendo is really what they're using to suggest that there's some type of payoff to Trump and his family. Stephen Collinson said, why Trump wishes America was more like the Gulf. Soliciting hundreds of billions of dollars in foreign investments shows America First is as much an economic strategy as a foreign policy. As Trump paled around with MBS, as the Saudi crown prince is widely known, it was clear the president is right at home with rich authoritarian leaders who head nations where the line between politics and personal enrichment is blurred. No one is complaining that his visit is also serving as a tactic endorsement of business deals his sons have clinched in countries along the route. There you are. Like I said, I'm not going to get too much more into that, but I would love to hear your thoughts on it. We also have been talking about this morning, if you are just joining us, we've been talking about the idea that now Pete Rose can get in the Hall of Fame posthumously now that he has passed away. Many deeming that a classless move from the Major League Baseball and the Hall of Fame. And I am kind of saying the Hall of Fame, but it is a Major League Baseball decision. Does seem classless to me as well. And I know there's a lot of anger over it. A man who should have known that he was going to get in the Hall of Fame and should have known before, of course, and should have been in before passing away, I should say. But your thoughts on it. Feel free to disagree. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
From laminate and vinyl to tile and wood, Floor & Decor has more options for pros, homeowners, and anyone looking for the right look at the right price. Your next beautiful space is at Floor & Decor.
This is summer with Nissan. It's a great time to buy at the Nissan Summer Sales Event, featuring the award-winning Rogue and Pathfinder. Now more affordable. Get the #1 shopping experience according to J.D. Power. Hurry to a Nissan dealer today.
Now get a low $249 per month lease on Rogue or get a low $339 per month lease on Pathfinder.
Is overall wellness important for a successful and happy life? At Hesselson's, we continue to be your wellness partner with our new infrared and traditional rock saunas and introducing Hot Spring's new bigger cold plunge tub. You can try before you buy in Hesselson's newly renovated showroom. Hesselson's also has easy financing options with 0% interest up to 5 years. Let's create positive experiences in your wellness together, whether it's a sauna or a hot spring cold plunge. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Catch Twins local news and weather by visiting WYDCTV.com. We've got daily and weekly weather forecast, question of the day, things to do, and more. WYDCTV.com, your website for everything Twin Tiers.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. We're going to be talking about New York State issues here in just a little bit. But first, let's go to viewer comments. And feel free to weigh in on Saudi Arabia. Feel free to weigh in on Pete Rose, anything else you'd like. Comment from the first viewer. New York State budget includes millions to open a new agency to further the Democrats' agenda against guns and the Second Amendment. I suppose this is Hochul's attempt to show she is pro-protection of law-abiding citizens and not criminals. How hypocritical of her and her comrades. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, to give you a look into the Democrat mindset, my sister, who I love very much, is a dyed-in-the-wool California Democrat who now lives in Oregon. Her son, my nephew, manages a Rite Aid in Southern California. She texted me yesterday to tell me about his impending job loss due to Rite Aid's closing across the country. She completely blames Trump for her son losing his job. The below comment from my sister had been implanted in her mind by the only news she watches and trusts, CNN. Wow. Here's what she said. The impact of the current economy is hit close to home now. Rite Aid is closing. There is no coming back from this with high global tariffs and ongoing price increases. So many broken promises. Ken finishes his statement by saying, well, I tried to never talk politics with her. I did try fruitlessly to tell her about all the promises already kept and that it takes time to bring the country back from the brink of disaster. And you're exactly right, Ken. If you look at this, and I don't know the exact details of course, your nephew's job or anything like that, but if you look at one of the major issues with Rite Aid and others, it's because of also the pro-crime policies of these blue states where shoplifting is to be ignored. Shoplifting, I mean, it's happening in New York State, not just, I know Rite Aid was cross country, but you can't have this much type of shoplifting with no repercussions and that not affect the bottom line of places like Rite Aid. So there's that too. And you're talking about California with the homelessness situation, et cetera. So yes, it's that. And the fact that after 100 days, Trump is supposed to fix what took 4 years of Biden to destroy the economy is supposed to, again, Trump is supposed to fix in 100 days. It's nonsensical, but we knew and we predicted it before Trump was sworn in, that because of how he talks, how President Trump talks, they are going to blame him on day one if the Ukraine war hadn't ended. This is just kind of the nature of the language that Trump uses and how the media takes him literally, not figuratively. And that's been a discussion that goes way back when I think Limbaugh was still alive talking about that. Okay, since that viewer mentioned New York, a couple of New York updates. Before we get into the nitty gritty, how about this? Now, buried in the budget is an 18-month extension, which is granted to a state panel that's studying the issue of reparations for slavery. You remember they started that panel a while back? The commission, which was scheduled to submit a written report of its findings and recommendations this summer, now has until early 2027 to do so. Now, why would that be? Why would they be given such an extended time? Well, what has happened by 2027? Not only the gubernatorial race will be over, which could be a real challenge for Hochul if at least Stefanik jumps in. And also you have the all-important, in their mind, 2026 midterm elections. So this goes to show you how disingenuous this is, that it's not about actually studying the issue of reparations for slavery. It's about political motivations. And they have proved it yet again with now delaying the report's finding by 18 months. So that we will not learn what's in it until the gubernatorial race is over, till the midterm elections are over. I just saw that in passing. We do have other New York State issues to get to when we come back. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Getting ready to wrap up hour number one after this.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
It's and Bath Planet has one question for you. Do you feel lucky? Well, do ya? Bath Planet is excited to announce the Dream Bath Giveaway 5. In the past 2 years, we have given away 4 brand new Dream Baths, and now it's your turn. The winner will be able to design their own bath or shower, complete with hundreds of color and pattern options, multiple shelf styles, and matching safety features. It's the Dream Bath Giveaway 5. Enter now by scanning the QR code or stopping by either of our 2 locations.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
The Twins' first prime-time local news. Catch weather, local and national news, events, and more with our anchors, Dante, Haley, and Ann. Find out what's happening in your community and more by watching Big Fox 10 p.m. News on WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Great point from a viewer here as we were talking about the closure closing of Rite Aid. Was Rite Aid involved in the opioid lawsuit, or are they just bad business people? No, they were involved in that. I did a quick research during the break, and yes, they were. Comment from a different viewer. Mark writes, now the fake news is saying it will cost $1 billion to sweep and retrofit that 747, making it look like it's not worth getting. No surprise there. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I feel President Trump should not be allowed to accept any gifts. He needs to stay on task and take care of our country. Fair point. Back to New York State issues quickly. Just as an update from a story we brought to you before, dozens of advocates who've spent years in the Capitol's hallways pushing for terminally ill New Yorkers to legally end their own lives with a physician's aid are finally seeing hope. With the Assembly having passed the Medical Aid in Dying Act last month, all eyes are on the Senate, where Democrat support for the measure has continued to grow over the last few years. So the assisted dying bill does move forward. Senate Majority Leader Andrea Stewart Cousins said she will move the bill once her conference amasses enough support for a floor vote. Quote, I'm happy to have the conversation, and I'm happy it's starting around death and dying. I don't think that our culture was one that really embraced that conversation. Certainly, more people have signed on in the Senate than had been over the past few years, and if it gets the support, I'll certainly bring it to the floor. She noted 25 senators are sponsoring the bill, which needs 32 votes to pass. Senate Republicans have yet to conference the bill, and one GOP Senator, Jack Martin, told Politico he hasn't made up his mind on the measure. But it's highly unlikely the Democrat Senate leadership would allow their Republican colleagues to be able to cast the decisive votes to push the bill forward. Instead, the bill is only expected to move once it has enough support to pass within the Democrat conference. That's Albany. Isn't that great? That's how there's that one-party rule. They don't want the Republicans to have any say in what is being done in Albany. So they're not even willing to put it up unless it has enough support from just Democrats alone. But the bill does hang in the balance. All right, we've got more New York State issues when we come back. We're also going to talk about maybe, if we get the opportunity, that new book about Biden and the cover-up involving Biden's mental health. The problem I have with it is I don't think there's a lot of credibility to the book, because it is being written by people that would not report on Biden's mental health while he was in office, that it's an after-the-fact rewriting of history. So to me, it already comes on shaky ground, but I am going to highlight some of the, I suppose you could say, biggest takeaways from the book, some of the things that are worth noting. But again, I think it is in many ways sort of a propaganda piece to protect the media and those certain people around him that were protecting him. So again, I know I always say take it with a grain of salt. I think it's worse than that. Take it with a pound of salt. But we'll talk about that maybe if we get the opportunity. We also have some other updates on Trump. But also, I want to hear your thoughts. I know we've been talking about it all morning. Pete Rose, now after passing away, now the potential of a posthumous induction into the Hall of Fame. Also, no one wants to talk about the stop-start mechanisms on cars. I was so excited to hear Lee Zeldin and the EPA saying everybody hates it. So we're going to fix the problem. But okay. All right. People don't hate it as much as me, I guess. But there we are. We got to take a break. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2, mere moments away. Please stay with us.
From laminate and vinyl to tile and wood, Floor & Decor has more options for pros, homeowners, and anyone looking for the right look at the right price. Your next beautiful space is at Floor & Decor.
We asked a few cycle friends, why do you ride?
You can just shout out to the world and nobody can hear you.
I love going out for miles and miles, hours and hours by myself.
It's a thrill that you are constantly chasing.
It's a way to get free.
I love the twisty roads.
It's not about the destination, it's about the ride, right?
Folks that ride should know. At William Attar, we understand you. And if you're ever injured on a motorcycle, we're ready to help. Call 444-4444.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/BigFoxNews.
At Arnett and Cayuga Health, partners of Centralis Health, over 6,000 employees work together to provide support to the communities they serve. Our staff is constantly striving to set a higher standard for quality, personalized care. No matter the obstacle, their focus has always been on bettering the patient experience. Thank you to everyone at Centralis Health for your professionalism, selflessness, and compassion. Happy healthcare.
Welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. Coming up in this hour, right around 7:10, we're going to be talking with Drenald Bakari. He is running for Steuben County Legislature in the Irwin District, and as I had mentioned this end of this week, we're wrapping things up on the 3 Republican candidates running in that primary for Steuben County Legislature. So that is our first one up. Drenald is coming up in about 10 minutes here. Let's get back to New York State issues for a moment. Yesterday, Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski, former congressman, he said 3 of his criminal justice bills designed to protect public safety were blocked by members of the Democrat Assembly majority yesterday in an attempt to derail the legislation. He said all 3 of these bills were considered in the Codes Committee. I'm not going to read the numbers to you. All of them were held in committee in order to block them from advancing. The bills sponsored by Assemblyman Sempolinski would protect child victims of domestic violence, protect police officers from malicious online doxing attacks, and give rural judges the right to carry a firearm in their courtrooms or other sensitive locations to defend themselves. Quote, New Yorkers say public safety is a priority and that they feel less safe. Blocking these bills makes us all less safe. It's a sign of how dysfunctional Albany has become that common sense legislation to prevent children from being victimized, prevent the harassment of police officers, and allowing judges to defend themselves can't get a fair hearing. These obstructionist tactics do nothing to protect public safety and are an extension of the disastrous policies like cashless bail and calls to defund the police. I will keep introducing legislation that improves the lives of New Yorkers. That's what I was elected to do. Now, the first bill makes domestic abuse committed in the presence of a child an automatic felony. The second amends the penal law to make it a crime of second-degree harassment to disclose a police officer's identifying information. And finally, the third bill allowed judges, justices, and magistrates to carry a firearm in a sensitive location as defined by the 2022 Concealed Carry Improvement Act. Now, speaking of kind of the quote-unquote justice reforms that have been so detrimental, like the cashless bail, the editorial board, and this is such a tragic story, Yvette Jeffries, 16 years old, with her whole future ahead of her, I read that she wanted to be a nurse someday, was just riding her scooter outside a Bronx school when cops believe a 14-year-old boy, 14 years old, shot her dead. Chalk this up to 2 more tragedies to the curse of criminal justice reform. And we've heard more and more about these young people getting involved in gang activities. Police say it began with a gang-related melee on Monday afternoon. From video, it appears the boy began firing after being punched. 1 bullet hit Yvette, a classic innocent bystander. But how would a 14-year-old get that gun? And where would he get the idea that the proper response to a punch is to whip out a firearm and let loose? Parents, as Mayor Eric Adams suggests, have a duty to be vigilant about their children's whereabouts and activities. He's right to urge checking kids' backpacks and bedrooms. And, of course, adults should steer their kids away from violence and violent crowds. But as we've often pointed out, says the New York Post, a good part of the blame also lies with New York's criminal justice system, which now sends a blaring signal that thugs, especially kids, will face scant consequences for criminal action. Sometimes no consequences because of, and we talked about the kind of roving gangs. It's almost Charles Dickens-like, roving and pickpocketing and disrupting at restaurants and bars. The Raise the Age law, signed by then Governor Andrew Cuomo in 2017 and backed by now Governor Kathy Hochul, protected teens under 18, up from 16, from facing charges in adult criminal courts for all but the most serious crimes. That encouraged over 18 gangbangers to use younger kids as mules to carry their weapons, rightly figuring they'd escape serious consequences if caught. And the 2022 raised the lower age law, made it impossible to charge offenders aged 7 to 11 as juvenile delinquents. Meanwhile, cashless bail and other criminal justice reforms, plus soft on crime prosecutors and judges, reinforced New York's anything goes crime climate. And this is what we talked about with public safety. That's why Governor Hochul tried to put in minute changes just so she could say she's doing something, because she realized when Lee Zeldin came so close to beating her, it was because Lee Zeldin was talking about public safety, something we're all concerned about. And I know this is a story from the city, but don't think for a moment the same thing isn't happening in our area as well. When a young person knows that they are essentially not going to get in any trouble for these crimes, they've got nothing to lose. But the cashless bail and other criminal justice reforms, plus soft on crime prosecutors and judges, reinforced that this anything goes crime climate continues. Yes, now it doesn't matter about the New York City part of this, but too much violence remains. And now an innocent young girl has lost her life. Her family and friends are devastated. They took her away from us. They took her away from me, sobbed Yvette's grandma. Do lawmakers who still support those, quote, reforms, Assembly Speaker Carl Hastie, Senate Majority Leader Andrew Stewart Cousins, Hochul, even care? I thought that was an important message for the Post, so a very city-centric story, but one that hits home in New York in general because of the soft on crime and tying the hands of law enforcement attitude from Albany. Now, because of the budget mess, meaning the negotiations of the budget, people outraged every year that it's 3 people in a room that get to decide what's in the budget. State lawmakers have about a month to test if their aggravations with Governor Hochul's handling of this year's budget process are potent enough to kickstart the process of changing the state's constitution before they leave Albany for the summer. Nearly 30 state senators have signed on to the 2025 version of a state constitutional amendment proposal to rein in the governor's inherent power over the state budget, with others signaling they are in favor. Similar language has been proposed several times in recent years, but there is a sense of urgency among lawmakers this year, given that the budget was the latest in 15 years and that they argue Hochul made a public display of holding the process up until her policy proposals were woven in the final budget for her satisfaction. And she did do that. We know she took those victory laps where people said nothing's been agreed to yet, but she kind of got a little bit ahead of herself, but she knew what she was doing. She was putting the pressure on. So they're trying to rein in her power on this with this amendment. Seen as a good decision, will it go through? That's the big question. Also, when will you receive your inflation refund check, and what will you do with your inflation refund check? It's coming this fall. It'll be coming out this fall. And are the New Yorkers across the state who faced higher prices between 2021 and current day due to inflation, and those higher prices meant that they paid more in sales taxes, and New York received more in sales taxes than it had expected. So we're distributing $2 billion back into the pockets of 8.2 million New Yorkers, said New York State Division of Revenue and Budget Chief of Economics, Laura Schultz. We're not going to go through all this. Yeah, you're going to get a check in the fall, right around elections now. Granted, not Governor Hochul's election, but still, with the midterm elections, they'll try to help boost the Democrats across the line. Also, now let's go quickly on New York State issues. The U.S. Attorney General has filed 2 more lawsuits against the Trump administration. That is Attorney General Letitia James. So I know Governor Hochul is playing dumb on this, but she better be prepared about those cuts and federal monies coming in. The case being filed yesterday, and the other attorneys generals in multiple states joining as petitioners challenged the threatened federal aid cuts for homeland security programs and transportation infrastructure funding that James's office alleges will be imposed on states that do not divert resources to support immigration enforcement efforts. Boy. By the way, just as an update, as of right now, with our last New York State story, then we're going to take a break, then we're going to hear from Janald Bakari. Andrew Cuomo now holds a massive lead in the New York City mayoral primary. And let me just say this in a jaded way. If he wins the primary, he wins the mayor. I don't see a Republican winning mayor of New York City. The days of Giuliani long gone. I don't think Bloomberg helped that any by running as Republican because he knew it was the only way he could win, and then turned into a very far left politician. But ex-Governor Andrew Cuomo maintained his commanding lead ahead of next month's Democratic primary for mayor. But rival Zoran Mamdani has the edge with voters under 45 years old. Okay. Cuomo is the choice of 37% of likely Democrat voters in what has largely become a two-person race compared to just 18% for Mamdani. Now, that's Mamdani is a Democrat socialist Queens assemblyman. Right now, Cuomo is on the path to success, said Marist pollster Lee Miringoff. Someone is going to have to bring him down. He's got that super PAC that's raised so much money. What does he have, like $8 million in his coffers? So he is definitely on track to win that primary. Now, yes, he does have to face Eric Adams, who is running as an independent, but I still think once he gets that primary win, I think it's his. Okay, when we come back, we're going to hear from Drenald Bakari. Then we're going to talk about that Biden book a little bit later on. We also have a few things here just about the Trump administration in general, the questions we've posed to you this morning. Your thoughts on the Major League Baseball deciding now that Pete Rose can be put into the Hall of Fame if he is elected into the Hall of Fame posthumously, as well as shoeless Joe Jackson. Waited a while on that one. Also, we've been talking about, well, a lot of things, New York State issues, Saudi trip, all that much more. I want to hear your comments. We'll read them after we speak with Drenald. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
There are days I feel stuck in my head. Even on an antidepressant, lingering depression symptoms can make it hard to break through. I wanted more from my antidepressant. I asked about Vraylar. Adding Vraylar to an antidepressant significantly reduces overall depression symptoms better than an antidepressant alone.
Vraylar isn't approved for elderly patients with dementia-related psychosis due to increased risk of death or stroke. Report changes in behavior or suicidal thoughts to your doctor. Antidepressants can increase these in children and young adults. Report fever, stiff muscles, or confusion, which may be life-threatening, or uncontrolled muscle movements, which may be permanent. High blood sugar, which can lead to coma or death. Weight gain and high cholesterol may occur. Difficulty moving, tremors, slow or uncontrolled body movements, restlessness and feeling like you need to move, nausea, constipation, insomnia, dizziness, increased appetite, and fatigue are common. Side effects may not appear for weeks.
Vraylar, breaking through to relief. Ask about Vraylar.
It's the 20 cardboard boat regatta. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025.
If you're looking for things to do this weekend, check out our Things to Do page on WYDCTV.com. Find volunteer opportunities, local workshops, family events, and more. Visit WYDCTV.com and click the Things to Do tab to learn more.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson's studio, and this is the Steuben County Office for the Aging section of our program, committed to maximizing quality of life, safety, and independence. The Steuben County Office for the Aging. Joining me in the Hesselson's studio, Drenald, it's so great to have you back.
Well, thank you, Frank. Thank you for having me, and Good to meet you this morning.
Yes. Well, first of all, I'm offering a disclaimer here at the beginning. So you are running for Steuben County Legislature, District 12. That's Irwin. Now, I am a resident of Irwin. I'm on the town board of Irwin. So what I've decided to do to make these all fair, we're going to have all three candidates running for the Republican primary. And you're all going to be asked the same questions. So in the past, when we had follow-up or I kind of was joking with you or whatever, this is going to be more cut and dry, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So just so people are aware, and that's going to be the same for each of the candidates. So let's start with maybe the easiest softball question. Tell us about your background.
Yes. Good morning, Frank, and thanks again for having me on your show.
Of course.
Good morning to your viewers. My name is Drinal Bulchari, and I was born in Albania back during Reagan's first administration. I'm not going to name the year, but I'll let people. At the time, Albania was still a communist country until the end of the 80s. Actually, or early 90s, when the communist wall and all those fell. So it was a different experience to be growing up into that era. Although I was young, toward the end of the 80s, I remember one election that I was still, young enough but old enough to remember. There was an election in name only, but there was only one choice, and that was, of course, the Communist Party, and anybody deviating from that, who knows what the consequences would be. So that, not that I realized then, but I took from that freedom of choice is something very important to me, even though it was a lesson learned back then that I didn't see until later. Fast forward a few years, I met my wife Jean in 2000 after she had come over to during the Kosovo crisis. She had come over to my village in Albania to help out as part of a youth evangelical team that she was born and raised in Hammondsport, and she had volunteered after high school to come there. So she was my English teacher. One thing led to another. We got married, and I immigrated to the United States with a marriage visa September 23rd, 2001, roughly 2 weeks after 9/11. Fast forward a few more years, it was one of the most proudest moments of my life when I became a citizen in the summer of 2005, and that was a great day, and that's the first time that I was registered as a Republican, and I could feel the whole the voice and registering to vote and the powerful freedoms that this country offers. So I guess that's a little bit of a background, and I came in, as I said, in 2001. I didn't have my high school diploma then. I studied for my GED. Fast forward a few more years, I finished law school in Chicago in 2012, so I am an attorney by profession. That's in the ballpark. It's about 40 plus years of 2 minutes.
Yes, well, good job. So why did you decide to ultimately run for Steuben County Legislature? That's, of course, as you see on the bottom of the screen, District 12 in Irwin.
Yes. So my wife and I live in Irwin, have been living in Irwin for the last 10 years. We raise that's where, we have 3 children. And I decided to run for Irwin because I believe that people in general, but particularly in the town of Irwin, deserve to have a voice that advocates for them, that advocates for their wishes, their concerns, and most importantly, to be represented at the county legislature. I believe our framers made the choice of representation a key part in founding this country, and we have that in all levels of our government, including at the local level. So I believe that that choice of representation is important to me, and I believe to give the people that freedom to have that voice heard.
So when you look at the future here, what are your kind of goals, or you could even look at it as maybe your campaign platform?
So my goals sort of run into my beliefs and that what I view as the the Republican principles, Frank, and that is, I'm a strong believer in people, in freedom, in small government, in pro-business. I'm a strong pro-Second Amendment supporter. I'm an avid hunter. Those are my beliefs, but I think a lot of those is how I run my life as well. So in particular, I'd like to see those happen at the county level. So of course, you know, the county legislature is in charge of the budget and several other issues. So that would be, in a nutshell, my platform. That's what I'd be advocating for people to be heard, and everybody to keep this county and this town of ours a great place to live.
What issues do you see that you'll be facing if you are lucky enough to become Steuben County legislator?
Well, some of the issues that I would see facing, I guess, would be probably trying to taxes, I suppose, keeping them low as much as possible. We I guess in this current situation, there's the issue with taxes would be one. Flooding, unfortunately, in Steuben County, we've had a string of floods that, although not many in Irwin may have been affected, our neighbors in Addison and throughout the county have been affected. So having the state and federal government help with that certainly would be a great thing. And I guess to that point, our chairwoman Kelly Fitzpatrick put a great statement out there to advocate for that. She's in my view, she's doing a great job. She's a good friend of mine, and she's also a supporter of mine in my campaign committee. But I know we're at the county level, but I mean, these are some of the issues that I think basically just advocating for people to make sure that this place continues to be a great place for the residents of both Irwin and the whole county.
And you took some of my bluster away. I was going to ask you about flooding, but there's, I think, two major issues that have been in the news for Steuben County in recent memory. One has been the flooding, obviously devastating in so many instances. The other that's been in the news has been kind of the county and the sheriff, the county versus the sheriff. And I was wondering your thoughts on that specifically.
Okay. My thoughts on, I am a strong supporter of the sheriff, Frank, for more than one reason, but principally in this country and also at this local level, we have a separation of powers. We have a county legislature and we have a sheriff that is publicly elected by the whole county. The sheriff was duly elected in 2020. It was duly overwhelmingly reelected in 2024. Now, this issue with I am familiar because, as I mentioned, I'm an attorney by nature, so this stuff is interesting to me. So I have reviewed the issue. I have reviewed the decision issued by the Supreme Court Justice Cook, and plain and simple, what happened was just wrong. Again, I support the sheriff. It should not have happened the way the county legislature, in my view, is not there to force a duly elected official out. It's there probably to provide a check, but not, so it shouldn't have happened, and that's my position on it. And again, I fully support our sheriff and law enforcement in that regard as well.
Now let's have a little fun. We talk on this program a lot about petitions because it isn't always the easiest process. How did the petition season go for you?
Well, to say it went fantastic, of course, would be a bit of an overstatement, but it went very well. I got 200 signatures, which is more than the requirement, the 160 minimum. But more importantly, what the petition process does, beside the grueling being out there in the cold, it gives you an opportunity to directly meet the voters of this town. And on that, I can say overwhelmingly the experience was positive. There's always sometimes you have somebody that reluctant to open the door, but then they do, and then they speak to you, and then that's when you can. I've had people ask me all kinds of questions. Why am I running? But overall, the experience was positive, and I think it went very well.
What did you find that the voters were saying to you specifically? Were there major issues that they keep bringing to your attention?
Interestingly, they always start with the national issues. So, well, what do you think of the current national politics, and what do you think of this? And my answer to that was, well, I'm focusing on the local. That's why I'm running on the local. And I wish I could say I could focus and clear things higher up, but people were basically like, what do you stand for? What what are you going to do for me, or what? So in a way, basically asking me, some of the issues were, what are you going to do with taxes? But again, or other issues like that, and generally those kind of questions.
Gotcha. Now, that is interesting how the primary is set up, because it's such a kind of a short time frame. Obviously, the elections are coming up in June, in the primary, I should say, and then it's from June, it's all the way till November. So if you were lucky enough to win the primary, you've got a long time to campaign for the general. But you have a short time frame right now to try to win that primary, and there are 3 people running. What is your campaign going to look like?
So my campaign is going to be basically a ground level campaign. I'm a strong believer in trying to meet as many of the electors, as many as the people of Irwin as possible. So knocking on doors, sending out some flyers, having meet the candidate options. In fact, I have 2. I plan to have 2 meet the candidate sessions. One of them is going to be on May 24 at the Kinsella Park here in Irwin. Hopefully the weather is going. We're going to have this kind of weather. I mean, we are in the spring finally in New York. So that's going to be from 10 to 12, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. I really hope to meet some people there. I'm going to be hosting another additional Meet the Candidate one. That's going to be on June 8th. That is going to be in the afternoon from 2 to 4 p.m. It's also going to be at the Kinsella Park. So I really hope to see people at both, but if one cannot make one, I hope they make the other.
Sure. Now, would you be open to, in this scenario, being that there's 3 candidates, you have such a short time frame, would you be open to a debate if your opponent's called for debate?
Absolutely. I think a debate would be great. I think, again, it goes with my beliefs that you put the choice to the people. You give them the option to learn more about me, about the other candidates for that matter. So, yeah, absolutely, I'll be for a debate.
Just before we go, how can people help your campaign and maybe find out more about you?
Yeah, so I'm very open to all kinds of questions. I'd love to meet many of you at these 2 dates, but also you can see me follow me on Facebook, as well as you can email me directly at Drinal Bilchari. That's my
You see it on the screen.
You see it on the screen,
Yep.
first and last name at gmail.com. Just email me with any kind of questions, and I'll how you're willing to help, and whether you would be willing to put a yard sign in your yard, or just simply just say hello, and and that would be great.
Again, give those days and times.
Yes, the first one is going to be May 24. That's a Saturday. It's going to be from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Kinsella Park on Canada Road. The second one is going to be June 8 from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. It's going to be a Sunday, and that's also at the Kinsella Park on Canada Road.
Great. All right. Just before we go, what would you say to voters before they head into primary day?
Voting is such a privilege and such an important right. So I would ask the voters to get out and vote.
Perfect. Well, Drenald, thanks so much for being on the program. Let's do it again soon.
Thank you, Frank.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us.
When you're online, don't forget to visit our Facebook page at Big Fox News. Catch up on news from the Twin Tiers. Vote on the daily question and hear about local events. All on Facebook.com/Big Fox News.
Anyone, anywhere can record crimes as they happen, and we're going to watch them right here.
He just took his car.
With cameras everywhere, you can run, but you can't hide. Watch iCrime.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
Catch Twins local news and weather by visiting WYDCTV.com. We've got daily and weekly weather forecast, question of the day, things to do, and more. WYDCTV.com, your website for everything Twin Tiers local.
The Big Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Thank you to our guest, Drenald Bakari, running for Steuben County Legislature in the Irwin District. We will have the other two candidates running in that primary, one tomorrow, and that is Kristen Clemens Westervelt, and then on Friday, James Cool. Also on Friday, we're going to be talking about the New York State budget with, because it is Fridays with Phil, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. Okay, let's go to some great viewer comments here going on during our interview. Ken writes, I thought I would add one more comment on my firsthand knowledge of how dedicated Democrats are to their liberal philosophy. My sister thinks Gavin Newsom is a wonderful governor, and she loves California. Her lifelong desire was to own her own home, but she could never afford to buy one in California. When she retired, she wanted to stay as close as possible to her kids in Southern California and reach far and wide for a house she could afford. She finally found a place in Oregon. She doesn't correlate the huge costs in California with the liberal mindset. It's kind of, I understand that, Ken. I think we see that in New York. We've seen it, unfortunately, from people that leave New York, go to other states, and try to corrupt their politics and make it more expensive. So yes, we've seen that. Now, someone responded to you, Ken, from your first comment. Viewer Ken reminded me of a visit I made with a friend to see his elderly mother who was in her 90s. After Trump was first elected, who lives in Ashtabula, am I pronouncing that right? Approximately 1 hour northeast of Cleveland. She was mainly a shut-in, and I recall her mentioning Trump. She said she didn't think she liked Trump, and he asked his mom, why, Mom? She said, oh, I don't know. I just don't think I do. And then we realized why. During the visit, the stations that she watched, not to mention when her newspaper, the Star Beacon, came, we noticed a big, bold lettering on the front page that was some derogatory and hate-filled anti-Trump headline. So it's not her fault. She lived it to be in her hundreds, but lived in a different time, largely when media was not as corrupt and one-sided as it is today. Sad, yes, where people believed that they could believe what was printed or believed what was said on the nightly news. Now, I think there's an argument, and Limbaugh made this argument years ago, that it was still very biased. People just didn't realize there was bias because there was no other outlets until the Limbaughs of the world, the Fox Newses of the world came out. So they didn't realize just how biased it was, but I appreciate your point. Mark writes, there's a new truck out. It's called Slate. It's a plain Jane truck. It even has hand crank windows. Oh, that's cool. It retails for $25,000. Interesting. I had not heard about that, Mark. Thanks for letting me know. Comment from a different viewer. Lee Zeldin should get a Frankly Speaking award for common sense. I agree. When I first experienced the start-stop feature on my new car, it brought back memories of stalling at intersections during the carburetor years. Not good memories. I could not agree more. So the first time I had ever driven a car, it was actually a rental, and I was making a long trip for a wedding, and I was in bumper-to-bumper traffic, and I had stopped, and the car shut off. And having only driven what you would maybe call junkers my whole life, it was not a good feeling thinking that I might stop all of traffic on the interstate until someone helps me push the car to the side of the road. And so now that I have a car with the start-stop feature, I know you can shut it off, but you have to do so every single time that you get in the ar. But I do that as frequently as I can remember, because it does. It brings a sense of dread, first of all, and it still got to go back to the starter. It cannot be good for the starter. It just doesn't feel right kicking back on. Not because it's my car. I'm not saying there's problems with my car. I'm saying that just that whole concept, I cannot stand it. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, Lee Zeldin came out yesterday and said everybody hates the stop-start, I'm paraphrasing, mechanism in the car. It is basically a climate change participation trophy, and that they are going to fix the problem. I think that's wonderful. So as I said at the beginning of the program, I lost the battle by having one in my car, but I'd be happy if we win that war. Comment from Sergeant Dave. Hey, Sergeant Dave. Good morning to you too. Here's the thing about Rose. This is about Pete Rose. The building the Hall of Fame has rows all over the place. The building, the physical building itself, has rows all over the place, just not in the hall. Now, if he didn't gamble as a player, but later as a manager, should he be kept off the wall? Other athletes that gamble after they left their sport, should they be kept out of their halls? Especially nowadays, all sports people advertise for gambling one way or the other. Oh, think of how much Major League Baseball and these media outlets that play their games, how much they've made off of gambling advertisements, off of legalized gambling in general. I couldn't agree more. I guess now the idea is, because Shoeless Joe Jackson is also allowed to be put in posthumously, I guess it's now, if you did some type of grave sin in the eyes of Major League Baseball, you can still be eligible after you passed, which to the one viewer's point, I think is classless. I think the Major League Baseball, and specifically the Hall of Fame, has shown their pettiness on the issue with Rose, and I think this is actually more insult to injury. Not because, number one, he did not know that he would ever be put into the Hall, even though I think he speculated at times in interviews that he probably would after he passed. But it's insult to injury to not have him know that he was going to get in the Hall, so I agree. All right. Hey, one viewer saying Mr. Bakari seems like a good guy and likable. Thank you to Drenald for being on the program. Okay. I see a couple other comments coming in. A couple more waves, too. So, going to this book that everybody's talking about. We do have to take a break. I understand that. But the biggest Biden bombshells from Jake Tapper and Alex Thompson's new book. So this is a way for Jake Tapper and the people in the media to kind of cover their you-know-whats and their lack of coverage for Biden. Because now, after the damage has been done, now they report on it. I guess some of the biggest takeaways, and we can talk more about it, was the Harris advisors were not happy with Biden and using cuss words, that he basically that Biden was to blame. So I think this was an easy way to make Biden, and really more his people that surround him, a scapegoat for why Harris lost. So another reason this book was made. Again, if they really wanted him to drop out earlier, I think Harris's people should know that if there was enough time for a primary, she wouldn't have been the pick. We were told that she wasn't even a good vice president by the far left media. I mean, they weren't happy with her. They had to rewrite and start singing a very different tune once she got the nomination, got put into that position. So by complaining about the time frame doesn't really add up, because I don't think Harris would have won either way. Now, if you want to say it hurt the Democrat Party's chances, perhaps, but just at an individual level, come on. Okay. Also, that this is the big takeaway. Biden did not recognize George Clooney. Now, the reason this is important, not just because George Clooney is a famous actor, I suppose, but that they had been close for years, and that it scared George Clooney. It shook him to his core. We learned that Obama had to help Biden off stage at a fundraiser, which we knew. We said that, and the media told us, no, that's not what happened. Never mind what you saw with your eyes. So now to say that this is some huge takeaway, we had talked about it at the time, and they laughed and mocked and ridiculed us for highlighting it. And then this is a big takeaway. Biden aides wanted to put him in a wheelchair, that his physical deterioration had become so severe that his advisors considered whether he would need a wheelchair if he were elected for a second term. But they wouldn't be able to put him in the wheelchair until after he was elected, if you want to see how big this cover-up, and I argue one of the biggest scandals, if not biggest scandals in presidential history. Now, we know that many people have been lying about their involvement in all of this, like the Nancy Pelosi's and the Chuck Schumers. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. I don't want to dive too much into it because it's stuff that we already knew. We know it's just the media, again, taking it with a grain of salt. As we know it's what the media wants to do to protect themselves and protect some very important, in their mind, Democrat officials. But we got to take a short break because I'm running a little bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Hi, this is Tessel, owner of Hesselson's in Amara Heights. At Hesselson's, we care about your well-being and overall health, whether it's relieving stress, muscle recovery, increasing circulation, or just revitalizing the body. Hesselson's now has 2 complete line of infrared and traditional rock saunas in our new and expanded showroom. Come in today and see why owning a sauna is the start of your new healthy lifestyle. Hesselson's is still locally and family-owned and operated in Amara Heights. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Every great performance starts with a great night's sleep. It feeds your day.
How I wonder what you are.
Makes good choices great ones. Because to get the best you, the best thing to get is this. Every great night's sleep starts with Natrol. New Natrol Sleep and Restore for your ultimate restorative sleep.
It's the 20 cardboard boat regatta. Hope that boat is sturdy for the big day, June 14, 2025.
The Twins' first prime-time local news. Catch weather, local and national news, events, and more with our anchors, Dante, Haley, and Ann. Find out what's happening in your community and more by watching Big Fox 10 p.m. News on WYDC.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Good morning. Well, good morning. All those who think the stall, I like that better, the stall start concept is really saving the planet, they should only fly in planes. They have a start stall that have a start stall feature. Really, yeah. That's why I love how Lee Zeldin put it, that it is a climate change participation trophy. I know it's a pet peeve of many, and it's not a focus I should be spending so much time on because it's full disclosure, one of my pet peeves. But I thought it was one of those small little victories that we talked about after Trump was elected that will pop up every once in a while and go, I'm glad someone finally did or said something. So more on this book. Biden forgot the names of longtime aides Jake Sullivan, Kate Bedingfield, halfway through his term. Now, we've heard that people knew of his decline as early as day one. Now we're already seeing some rewriting of history, whereas, well, about halfway through. In December of 2022, Biden couldn't even recall his former top national security aide and communications director from his vice presidency, which had ended less than 6 years before. Steve, he beckoned to his national security advisor, Jake Sullivan, after announcing the U.S. had secured the release of WNBA star Brittany Griner. These are all things and events that the press was at, and they did not report on it. So now we're supposed to believe they're being factually accurate after the fact, after the damage is done. Now we're supposed to believe them and that they have credibility. After they not only refused to report on it, they also criticized those who had questions, very legitimate questions and very legitimate concerns. Biden didn't recognize, again, George Clooney, and of course, George Clooney making it all about himself, that he was shaken to the core. And that was supposedly at that star-studded fundraiser where, again, we knew Obama helped him off the stage, but when you reported on it, you were mocked and called conspiracy theorists. But the wheelchair issue is very important because talking about a scandal and a cover-up, they said, yeah, we'll probably put him in a wheelchair, but not till after he wins election for a second term. He napped during his debate prep while advisors hoped he'd be a, quote, game day performer, which we know now he was not. They blocked out substantial time to prep over several days, but they said most of that time at Camp David was spent on napping. Ron Klein was disappointed in Biden's preparation. He'd been assured that Biden had been reviewing the prep materials before he arrived at Camp David, but he hadn't. He was rusty and exhausted when he arrived, essentially sleeping that whole first day, and even after then, taking a lot of naps. And they said that the kind of the blow-ups behind the scenes at these watch parties for the debate in the Democrat Party, well, there was a lot of cussing, but a lot of people believing that it was the end of his campaign, and rightfully so, with some Democrat lawmakers actually asking who the heck is running the country. One of the biggest, I guess, blow-ups was when he said we finally beat Medicare. Remember that? It really started right from the very beginning of the debate, even the way he awkwardly walked out. So they go behind what people call the disaster behind the scenes. And again, in the kind of rewriting of history, Kamala's people blame Biden for Kamala not winning because he didn't get out early enough. I would say if he got out early enough, Kamala would have never ran for president. Someone else would have been chosen. Even rumor had it that Obama had other people in mind over Kamala, and that Biden kind of forced their hand. We've got a couple more quick things on this. We're going to move through quickly because we've got 2 breaks to take and we've got a lot to get to. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
You want it, we got it at Current Power Sports. Powerful, capable, affordable off-road machines. Tough, hard-working tractors. All styles and sizes of trailers to haul whatever you need. Whether you're looking for speed or utility, you'll find the right machine at Current Power Sports. With a CF Moto or Segway Sport, utility, or ATV, you'll enjoy hours of off-road thrills. And when you need to get the work done, there's a Mahindra tractor model built just for you. Check out Current Power Sports in Pine City, New York, and Wellsboro, Pennsylvania.
Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. And how can we help like that in our small businesses, not to sound cliche, but are the backbone of our community? Let's talk about thanks, as always, to you, the viewers, for sending in your texts and your voicemails. Now we go to a comment. This is from John in Elmira. Make sure to catch Frankly Speaking only on AM Big Fox News WYDC, or visit our website at WYDCTV.com.
Fox 10 p.m. News is the first primetime local news for the Twin Tiers. Our reporters, Haley and Dante, scour the southern tier to bring you up-to-date news regarding local businesses, economics, and how national decisions impact our area. If you're not near a TV, don't worry. You can also catch our 10 p.m. news live on WYDCTV.com/livestream. Don't miss Big Fox 10 p.m. news on WYDC, on TV, or our website.
As always, we thank our friends at Boss Security and Horseheads for bringing us that beautiful view of historic Market Street. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Rick. Hey, Donald looks like he's the king of Saudi Arabia. 2, running around over there praising everybody. That stinker. He's right at home riding around in a golf cart working on deals that benefit only the U.S. Did I say that? Yet another day or two and Trump can go check out his new ride. Team Trump Cutter are busily putting together their wish list for Santa Don. Kennedy and the grandkids out for a swim in a sewage-infested stream. Good for what's ailing you and better for you than the old vaccine. My pick for Health and Human Services Secretary. A steady diet of corruption and no one in government ever does anything about it. Gifts and planes and buildings and cryptocurrency. What is going on here? Right in front of the whole world, Trump is getting paid off. A handful of people in D.C. raise concerns. 95% don't raise an eyebrow. 350 million people and one person does whatever he wants. Makes me sick and not proud of what we have become. Okay, back to this book on Biden just quickly. Jill Biden cut off a conversation that Governor Shapiro was having with the president because he started to talk about the real problems with the campaign, especially after the debate performance, saying that he had to prove the debate performance was a one-off and they had to start talking about inflation, or Pennsylvania wasn't looking like it would go for him, et cetera, et cetera. And so who stepped in but none other than what many people believe was a puppet master behind the scenes. So before Shapiro could get all of his comments in, the First Lady stepped right up and said, all right, we got to go. That's Jill Biden. Now, I mentioned this book. I don't believe the media and those writing it have the credibility that they can be trusted. Well, Jake Tapper's past coverage of Biden has come under scrutiny ahead of this new book. CNN anchor Jake Tapper has co-authored the book, The Original Sin: President Biden's Decline, Its Cover-Up, and His Disastrous Choice to Run Again. Is going to be released next week. As viewers of The Lead know, I've been covering the concerns about President Biden's age and health for years, Tapper told CNN viewers, hoping that they weren't paying attention. I literally asked him about it in October of 2022, and we've challenged Democrats and White House officials about it. Now, conservative critics have taken aim at Tapper since that announcement, alleging he was part of the cover-up and trying to rewrite history with this new book. And I believe that's exactly what this is to protect the media. Now, it goes through the whole history here. But in October of 2020, Tapper touted the Biden talking point, even showing up a clip from the DNC of a 13-year-old Biden supporter with a severe stutter. That was the argument, that some of these mistakes he made were just about his stutter. How do you think it makes little kids who stutter feel that when they see your comments like that? Tapper asked Laura Trump. Laura responded, first and foremost, I had no idea that Joe Biden ever suffered from a stutter. I think what we see on stage with Joe Biden, Jake, is very clearly cognitive decline. And Tapper said, okay, before interrupting her, it's so amazing to me, a cognitive decline. I think you were mocking his stutter. Yeah, I think you were mocking his stutter, and I think you have absolutely no standing to diagnose somebody's cognitive decline. I would think somebody in the Trump family would be more sensitive to people who do not have medical licenses diagnosing politicians from afar. That was back in 2020. And then he was very sarcastic to her when she said that the cognitive decline was very concerning. Jake Tapper interrupted and said, thank you, Laura. I'm sure it's from a place of concern. We all believe that, in his smug, condescending way. They go through, this is on Fox News, by the way. You can find all the instances of this, of Jake Tapper covering for the president and now receiving criticism because of this book that has come out, and rightfully so. Now, CNN strongly pushed back at the idea that Tapper offered insufficient coverage of the Biden scandal, but the damage is done. They're trying to rewrite history. So that is why we don't put too much faith in it. By the way, they're putting more scrutiny on Senator Fetterman than they ever did on Biden. Mark Halperin says Senator Fetterman's behavior warrants major concerns as Democrats turn on him. We got to take our last break. I know. Last break, and we're going to wrap things up with your comments. So keep them coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Your overall wellness is important for a successful and happy life. At Hesselson's, we continue to be your wellness partner with our new infrared and traditional rock saunas and introducing Hot Springs' new bigger cold plunge tub. You can try before you buy in Hesselson's newly renovated showroom. Hesselson's also has easy financing options with 0% interest up to 5 years. Let's create positive experiences in your wellness together, whether it's a sauna or a hot spring cold plunge. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
Every great performance starts with a great night's sleep. It feeds your day.
How I wonder what you are.
Makes good choices great ones. Because to get the best you, the best thing to get is this. Every great night's sleep starts with Natrol. New Natrol Sleep and Restore for your ultimate.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some viewer comments. Let me get this straight. America gets a gazillion-dollar plane free, and we are ticked off because it didn't have a full tank of gas. Good way of putting it. Mark writes in, to the comment about Trump enjoying himself overseas. I think he deserves it. He is the hardest working man at his age that I know. Well, him at his age and age much younger than him as well. Quickly as we go out the door, Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan has been indicted over allegedly helping illegal migrant evade ICE after he was accused of pummeling a victim. Milwaukee County Judge Hannah Dugan was led away in handcuffs while still in her black judicial robe last month after being accused of obstruction of justice and concealing Mexican national Eduardo Flores Ruiz from federal law enforcement at the end of the pretrial hearing. Now, AOC. And then you had people suggesting that mayor, New Jersey Democrat, who tried to enter the ICE center. There's suggestions that these politicians should be investigated and arrested. Well, AOC warns it's a problem if Democrat colleagues are arrested. If anyone breaking the law in this situation is not members of Congress, it's the Department of Homeland Security, she said. You lay a finger on someone, on Representative Bonnie Watson-Coleman, or any of the representatives that were there, you lay a finger on them, we are going to have a problem because the people who are breaking the law are the people not abiding by it. We're going to have a problem. I don't know, some kind of weird threat there, I suppose. Oh, one really interesting piece you can find at Fox News. A new bombshell report suggests that Chinese spies have infiltrated many of the prestigious U.S. universities and that it is a widespread campaign. This should come as no surprise when we see all of the issues on college campuses. Well, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to Drenal Bakari for being our guest. He's running for Steuben County Legislature in the district that encompasses Irwin. That is a 3-person primary race. And tomorrow we'll have another member of that race, Kristen Clemens Westervelt. And then on Friday, James Kuhl. Also on Friday, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. So we've got a busy lineup this week. Thank you for all the comments. Great discussions this morning. Please join us every weekday morning starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already.